Broken heart, first, hit the like button, subscribe, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Because today's story isn't just about one woman, it's about anyone who's ever been betrayed by the people they love the most. One photo, one lie, and one decision that changed everything. It started with a single picture. One picture that broke my heart, shattered my trust, and showed me a truth I had been running from for years. 3 weeks earlier, my son Marcus had called me. His voice was heavy, filled with what sounded like exhaustion and worry. "Mom," he said, "I'm really sorry. We had to cancel the family vacation. Finances just won't allow it this year. But don't worry, we'll reschedule next year when things get better." And of course, I believed him. Why wouldn't I? He was my only son, my reason for living. I trusted him the way only a mother can. That summer, I had worked extra shifts, exhausting 12-hour days, telling myself it would be worth it, that soon I would be surrounded by my family, laughing, eating, making memories. I wanted to feel useful, connected, part of something bigger than just my quiet little life. But then, Instagram told me the truth. One quiet afternoon, I picked up my phone. A notification popped up. My daughter-in-law, Chantel, had posted new photos. I opened them casually, not expecting much, but what I saw made the blood drain from my face. There they all were, Marcus, Chantel, my grandchildren Jamal and Naomi, standing on the deck of a luxury Caribbean cruise ship. Marcus was dressed in a crisp white linen shirt, cocktail in hand, looking as if he had no worries in the world. Chantel posed in a coral-colored dress, the kind that costs more than my entire pension check, her sunglasses reflecting the bright ocean sky. My grandchildren splashed by the pool, wearing designer hats you can only buy on ships like that. And then the final blow. Chantel's parents, Chuck and Eleanor, were in the photo too, raising champagne glasses, smiling as though the world belonged to them. The caption read, "Unforgettable family vacation." Unforgettable. That one word echoed inside me like a cruel joke. For them, it was unforgettable joy. For me, unforgettable betrayal. I sat frozen, staring at the phone. My chest felt tight, as if someone was pressing a weight against it. They hadn't just gone on vacation. They had gone without me. They had lied to me. Marcus had looked me in the eye, or at least, spoken into the phone with that worried tone, and told me there was no money for this trip. But here they were, smiling on a cruise that must have cost $10,000, maybe $15,000. I wasn't too poor for them to take along. I was simply unnecessary, disposable, forgotten. In that moment, I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't even call them. I just stared at the screen as something inside me broke forever. And yet, deep down, this wasn't the first time they had betrayed me. It was only the first time I allowed myself to see it. Because for years, I had ignored the little signs, the strange silences, the constant emergencies, the way I was included only when money was needed. I told myself it was love. I told myself family sticks together. But that photo, that one photo tore away all the excuses. And little did I know, this was only the beginning. Because just weeks later, Marcus would send me a message, a request so bold, so shameless, that it would force me to choose between being used forever or finally setting myself free. After that Instagram photo shattered me, I kept asking myself one question: how did it come to this? How did a 73-year-old woman, who worked her whole life, end up being nothing more than an ATM for her own family? To understand, we have to go back 8 years. Back to the day my husband, Earl, passed away. Earl was my partner in everything. Steady, reliable, a man who worked hard as a mechanic and never let his family go without. When he died, I was left alone in a paid-off house, with a decent pension and some savings. Enough to live quietly, comfortably. But grief is a strange thing. It doesn't just take away the person you love. It leaves a hole in your chest that you'll do anything to fill. Marcus knew that. He was my only son, the light of my life. Losing Earl was like losing half of me, but watching Marcus suffer seemed even worse. He looked devastated. He told me he couldn't sleep, couldn't focus, that the stress was unbearable. So when he came to visit one afternoon, just 2 months after the funeral, I was already fragile. He sat beside me on the same couch where I'm telling this story now. He took my hand gently, with that same tenderness he had used since he was a boy. "Mom," he said softly, "I need to ask you for something." Chantel, my daughter-in-law, sat next to him, smiling politely. I didn't suspect a thing. Marcus continued. "Naomi's sweet 16 is coming up. You know how sensitive she is, how much this milestone means to her. But with the funeral costs, the economy, we just can't swing it. I know it's a lot to ask, but could you lend us $10,000? Just a temporary loan. I promise, we'll pay you back in 6 months." I glanced at Chantel. She nodded with a perfect, rehearsed smile. "It's just a temporary loan, Ruby. We want Naomi to have a memory she'll never forget." And of course, I understood. I was a grandmother. I was a widow searching for purpose. I wanted to feel useful. So the very next day, I transferred the $10,000. Naomi had her sweet 16 in an upscale private venue. Colored lights, a chocolate fountain, a DJ, everything a teenager could dream of. I sat at a back table, watching her dance, smiling through tears. My heart swelled with pride. But they never paid me back. Not a cent. Not even a mention of repayment. And I didn't ask. Because mothers don't ask, do they? Mothers give. Mothers sacrifice. Mothers believe. 6 months later came the next request. "Mom, we need to remodel the kitchen. The pipes are leaking. It could cause damage. $8,000 should cover it." I said yes. Then it was Chantel's car. "Broke down completely, Mom. We can't manage without it. $12,000. I said yes. Then Jamal's private university. "The public option isn't good enough, Mom. He deserves better. $15,000 per year. 3 years. $45,000 in total." And I said yes. Each time there was a reason. Each time it was urgent. Each time it was for the children, for stability, for family. And each time, I convinced myself it was temporary. That one day, they would pay me back. That one day, they would see me not as a source of money, but as a mother. But deep down, I think I already knew. This wasn't love. This was the beginning of a trap, a gilded cage built from my own sacrifices. After that first loan for Naomi's sweet 16, the requests never stopped. One by one, they came, each wrapped in urgency, each dressed up as a family emergency, each tugging at my heart. Marcus had a gift. He never said, "I want." He always said, "We need." And as a mother, how could I ever say no to that word? The requests keep coming. "Mom, the roof is leaking. It could be dangerous. We just need $7,000 to fix it. Mom, Jamal needs a math tutor if we want him to get into a good university. Mom, Naomi needs braces. The dentist says if we don't do it now, it'll be worse later. Every time, it sounded urgent. Every time, it sounded necessary. And every time I opened my account, transferred the money, and told myself, this is what mothers do. But what I didn't understand back then, what took me nearly $60,000 to realize, is that there's a difference between helping and being used, between love and manipulation, between family and convenience. The subtle manipulation. Chantel was subtler, but just as effective. She didn't ask directly. Instead, she would drop poisoned little comments disguised as concern. Oh, Ruby, it's a shame you can't come to Jamal's birthday at the country club. But I understand, those places are a little too formal for you. Or, it's so sad Naomi can't go on the Europe class trip. But hey, not all kids get the same opportunities. And just like that, the guilt worked its magic. I would step in, offering to cover the club membership, the school trip, the graduation dress. $2,000 here. $3,000 there. $100 for a dress. Tiny bleedings that together became a flood. Signs I ignored. There were moments when the truth was right in front of me. Like the day I drove past their house and saw a brand new SUV in the driveway. Marcus told me it was borrowed from a friend. 2 months later, I saw Chantel driving it. Or when Naomi posted photos from a luxury beach resort trip, just weeks after Marcus told me they were struggling to pay bills. The evidence was there. But I turned a blind eye. Because to admit the truth, that my son and his wife were using me, would have meant admitting something far too painful, that I wasn't loved, I was convenient. Emotional hunger. The money wasn't the only thing draining. My heart was, too. I settled for crumbs of attention. A 10-minute phone call once a week. A rushed monthly visit that lasted less than an hour. Seeing my grandchildren's photos on social media instead of them being sent directly to me. And I told myself it was enough. That they were busy. That they loved me in their own way. But the truth? I was starving, not for food, but for love. For respect. For the simple acknowledgement that I mattered. For years, I played the role of the generous mother. The invisible support. The family's secret safety net. But all the while, something inside me was withering. And though I didn't know it then, cracks were already forming. Cracks that would soon split wide open, leading to the moment that would finally break me. For years, I told myself the same story. They love me. They just need help right now. Things will get better. But deep down, the cracks were already forming. And eventually, even the strongest illusions start to break. Moments that didn't add up. It began with small things. I'd hear Marcus say they were struggling, that bills were piling up, that they were barely holding things together. But then I'd see Naomi posting photos of herself at a weekend beach resort, a trip that must have cost at least $4,000. I'd hear Chantel talk about barely making it through the month, and then I'd notice her wearing a brand new designer handbag. One day, I drove past their house and saw a shiny brand new SUV in the driveway. When I asked Marcus about it, he brushed it off. Oh, it's borrowed from a friend, Mom. 2 months later, I saw Chantel driving it. Little lies. Small inconsistencies. Excuses that didn't quite fit. But every time, I silenced my doubts. because questioning them felt dangerous, because admitting the truth would mean admitting that my only son was using me. The dinner that wasn't mine. The worst crack came 6 months before the cruise. I found out by accident, through a slip of the tongue from my granddaughter Naomi. "Grandma, I can't talk long. We're getting ready for Grandpa and Nana Holt's party." Grandpa and Nana Holt, Chantel's parents. That night, I called Marcus. "Son, Naomi mentioned a dinner?" There was a long pause. Then he said carefully, "Oh yeah, Mom. It's just something small, intimate. You know how Chantel's family is, very tight-knit. I don't want you to feel bad, but we thought it would be better this way." Better this way. As if I was a burden. As if I wasn't family. I hung up, my chest hollow. I didn't cry. I didn't argue. I just swallowed the humiliation like I always did. But the truth was carving itself deeper into me. I wasn't really part of their family. I was just their funding. The $20,000 emergency. 2 weeks later, Marcus showed up at my door, looking worried. "The company is going through layoffs, Mom. There's a chance I might get let go. Chantel is stressed. The kids need stability. We just need a cushion. Something temporary. Could you lend us $20,000? $20,000. The number hit me like a punch. I hesitated. But then Marcus looked at me with those pleading eyes, the same look he had as a little boy when he needed comfort. "You're the only person we can trust, Mom. Please. Just until things stabilize." And like a fool, I said yes. I went to the bank in person to authorize the transfer. The teller looked at me 3 times and asked, "Are you sure?" I smiled weakly and said, "It's for my family." But the look in her eyes told me what I didn't want to admit. She knew I was being used. Silence after sacrifice. After that transfer, something shifted. Marcus stopped calling as often. Chantel barely responded to my messages. The grandchildren were suddenly too busy whenever I tried to video call. I started to feel it, that horrible sinking sensation that I was no longer a mother or a grandmother. I was an outsider, useful when needed, invisible when not. One night, I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the phone, waiting for it to ring, waiting for someone, anyone, to show me that I still mattered. But it never rang. That was when I realized my love had become a transaction. My worth had become measured in dollars. The cracks were no longer small. They were spreading wide open, and I was standing on the edge of a collapse that was about to come. For years, I let myself believe their lies. I told myself I was helping. I told myself family comes first. But one moment, one single scroll on my phone, shattered that illusion forever. The photo that changed everything. It was a quiet Sunday afternoon. I was sipping tea, half watching television, when my phone buzzed. A notification. Chantel has posted new photos. I tapped it casually, but what appeared on my screen nearly knocked the air out of my lungs. There they were, my son, my daughter-in-law, my grandchildren, all dressed in crisp summer clothes, standing on the deck of a gleaming Caribbean cruise ship. The sun glittered on the water, their smiles wide, the kind of joy you can't fake. Marcus held a cocktail, laughing. Chantel leaned against the railing in a coral dress that probably cost more than my pension check. Jamal and Naomi were splashing by the pool, wearing matching cruise merchandise, straw hats, custom t-shirts. And then, as if fate wanted to twist the knife deeper, I saw them. Chantel's parents, Chuck and Eleanor, standing right there, champagne flutes in hand, included, embraced, celebrated. The caption read, "Unforgettable family vacation, red heart, water wave tropical drink." Unforgettable. That one word felt like a slap across the face. For them, it was unforgettable joy. For me, it was unforgettable betrayal. The collapse inside. My hands trembled as I held the phone. Marcus had looked me in the eye weeks earlier, had promised me there was no money for a vacation. He told me they couldn't afford it, that life was too hard, that we'd reschedule when things got better. And I believed him. Of course I believed him. Now, the truth was blinding. They hadn't canceled the trip. They had canceled me. I wasn't too expensive to bring along. I wasn't too frail to travel. I was simply unnecessary. For the first time, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even pick up the phone to demand answers. I just sat there, frozen, hollow, as a lifetime of sacrifices came rushing back. Every dollar I had given, every shift I had worked, every lonely night I told myself it was worth it. And now I saw it clearly. I was nothing but their safety net, their backup plan, their open wallet. Not a mother, not a grandmother, just a resource. The vow of silence. That night, I made a decision. Not the kind of decision you announce with a bang, but the quiet, dangerous kind, the kind that changes everything. I didn't text Marcus. I didn't confront Chantel. I didn't tell anyone what I had seen. Instead, I waited. Because I knew, deep down, it was only a matter of time before Marcus came knocking again, with another excuse, another emergency, another plea for money. And when that moment came, I would be ready. I even rehearsed the words in my head, simple and sharp, like a blade. Ask your wife's family. 4 words. For words that would break the cycle. For words that would finally set me free. That cruise photo didn't just break my heart. It woke me up. And soon, when Marcus came calling, I would discover just how powerful those 4 words could be. 4 weeks after that cruise photo, I carried the betrayal like a stone inside my chest. Heavy. Cold. Always there. But I didn't say a word. Because I knew Marcus. I knew his patterns. And I knew it was only a matter of time before the next request came. And when it did, I would finally be ready. The call. It came on a Thursday evening. My phone lit up with his name. For a moment, I stared at it, my heart pounding. Love, fear, and dread twisted together inside me. Then I answered. "Mom," Marcus began, his voice tight, hurried, the same rehearsed tone I had heard so many times before. "There's been another emergency. Chantel's hours got cut at work. The bills are piling up. We just need a little help to get through this month. Maybe $15,000, just until things stabilize." I closed my eyes. The same script. The same performance. The same manipulation. But this time, I didn't break. Instead, I took a deep breath and said the 4 words I had been rehearsing for weeks. Ask your wife's family. The silence. For a moment, the line went dead. Nothing. No sound. Then Marcus's voice cracked, sharp with disbelief. "What? Mom, what did you just say?" "You heard me," I replied, steady now. Ask your wife's family. You take them on cruises. You celebrate with them. You trust them with your joy. So trust them with your needs. There was another pause. Then his tone shifted, hard and angry. Are you kidding me? After everything we've been through? You're really going to abandon us now? That word, abandon, pierced me like a knife. 4 years, I had given everything to make sure he never felt abandoned. And yet here he was, the one who had abandoned me long ago. The doorstep showdown. 2 days later, he showed up at my door. His face was red with anger, jaw clenched tight. Chantel stood just behind him, arms folded, her expression sharp and cold. Mom, Marcus said harshly, we need to talk. I stood in the doorway, my hand pressed against the frame, holding steady against the weight of decades. There's nothing to talk about, I said. The answer is no. Chantel stepped forward, her voice dripping with contempt. You're being selfish, Ruby. We've done everything we can, and you're just sitting here with money while we suffer. A bitter laugh escaped me, not because it was funny, but because it was absurd. Selfish? I've given you nearly $70,000. I've worked myself to the bone in my 70s just to keep bailing you out. And still, it's never enough. Well, it's over now. Marcus's eyes narrowed. So that's it? You're cutting us off? You're choosing money over family. I shook my head slowly. No. I'm choosing dignity over being used. I'm choosing self-respect over manipulation. And if that means losing you, then so be it. The door closes. For a moment, he just stared at me, shaking his head in disbelief. Finally, he muttered, Fine. Don't expect us to come around anymore. He turned sharply and stormed off, Chantel's heels clicking on the pavement behind him. I stood in the silence of my little house, my hands trembling, my heart aching. But underneath the pain, something else stirred. Relief. For the first time in years, I wasn't afraid. For the first time in years, I wasn't being used. For the first time in years, I was free. All it took were 4 simple words. Ask your wife's family. That night, I slept deeply. The chains that had bound me for nearly a decade were gone, and though I didn't know it yet, this ending was really the beginning of something new. When the door closed that night, I stood alone in my living room. The silence felt heavy at first, almost unbearable. But then, something shifted. For the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for the phone to ring. I wasn't bracing myself for the next emergency. I wasn't shrinking into the role of the forgotten, invisible mother. I was free. The first taste of freedom. The next morning, I did something I hadn't done in years. I took a walk through the park. The air smelled like spring, the flowers were blooming, and for the first time, I noticed them. No rushing. No guilt. No heavy weight on my shoulders. I sat on a bench and just breathed. I realized I had been holding my breath for nearly a decade, waiting for the next demand, the next manipulation. Now there was only space, rediscovering myself. Over the next few months, I began to rebuild. I reconnected with old friends I had lost touch with. I joined a book club at the library. I even signed up for an Italian cooking class, something I had always dreamed of doing with Earl before he passed. And then, one day, I booked a ticket. Not for Marcus. Not for Chantel. Not for anyone else. For me. A trip to Italy, Rome, Florence, Venice. The kind of trip I had always told myself I couldn't take because family needed me. As I stood at the Trevi fountain, the water shimmering under the Italian sun, I threw a coin and made a wish. Not for money, not for love, not for someone else's happiness, but for mine. The grandchildren. I won't lie, losing Marcus and Chantel hurt. There are still nights I stare at the ceiling and wonder if I could have done something different. But slowly Jamal and Naomi found their way back to me. Maybe they saw the truth. Maybe they simply missed their grandmother. Whatever the reason, they started calling, visiting, sitting at my table again, not for money, but for stories, for laughter, for love. And that was enough. The lesson. Looking back now, I see it clearly. Family isn't about blood. It's about respect. It's about love that isn't measured in dollars or sacrifices. For years, I thought being a good mother meant giving until there was nothing left of me. But the truth is simple. Real love doesn't ask you to destroy yourself. The final words to the audience. So if you're watching this right now, and you've ever felt invisible, used, or unappreciated, let me tell you something. You are more than what people take from you. You deserve respect. You deserve peace. You deserve to choose yourself. Because at 73, I finally learned the truth. The greatest freedom isn't in giving everything away. It's in saying no when love turns into manipulation. And sometimes, the most powerful thing you can say are just 4 words. Ask your wife's family.